Ever heard the word freedom? It sounds so powerful, doesn't it? A battle cry, a promise, a fundamental right. But then there's another word, obedience. It doesn't have the same ring to it. It sounds restrictive, maybe even weak. And yet, if we're being honest, obedience often feels safe. Why is that? Why do we, as a species that craves freedom, so often choose to follow? You might think it's all about control, about being forced to comply, but the real story is much deeper and older than any king or government. Humans don't just obey because they're told to. They obey because, for a very, very long time, obedience was the key to survival. Deep inside our minds, there's a primal fear that has been with us since before we built cities or wrote laws. It's the fear of being cast out. Picture this, hundreds of thousands of years ago, on the vast savannas of Africa, our ancestors weren't the strongest or the fastest animals out there. Their superpower was the group, the tribe. Belonging wasn't just a nice feeling. It was the difference between life and death. To be part of the group meant you had protection from predators, helped finding food and care when you were sick. And what was the golden rule of staying in the group? Don't rock the boat, obey the norms, follow the leader. Disobedience, on the other hand, was a one-way ticket to isolation. Being kicked out of the tribe meant facing the wilderness alone. It was a death sentence. So, our brains evolved with a powerful, built-in alarm system. The thought of going against the group, of being different, of being rejected, triggers a deep, visceral anxiety. That discomfort you feel when you have to say no to someone, or when you disagree with a room full of people. That's not a modern social quirk. That's an ancient survival instinct screaming, warning, you might be exiled. Think about it. Our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, and the psychological pain of social rejection can be so intense that our brains process it in the same regions that processed physical pain. That's right, getting a cold shoulder can literally feel like a physical injury to your brain. So when faced with a choice between challenging authority and just going along with it, our brain often performs a quick, subconscious calculation. Resisting feels risky and painful. Obeying feels safe and comfortable. The choice becomes obvious. Our brain learned to choose the path of least resistance, the path of safety over the path of freedom. This is why following the crowd can feel so automatic, almost like a reflex. It's not necessarily a sign of weakness. It's a sign of a highly effective survival strategy that has been passed down through countless generations. We are the descendants of those who were good at fitting in. The rebels and they often didn't get to pass on their genes. So, the roots of obedience don't start with laws, police, or authority figures. They don't start with society at all. They start right here, inside our own minds. It's a silent, internal negotiation between our ancient fear of isolation and our modern desire for autonomy. Understanding this ancient programming is the first step to consciously choosing our actions. It allows us to recognize that feeling of discomfort when we want to resist, not as a sign that we're wrong, but as an echo of our ancestors' fight for survival. And by understanding it, we can learn when to listen to that ancient voice, and when it's time to be brave and choose freedom. The first topic is the fear of rejection. Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to say no? Why you find yourself nodding along in a meeting, even when you completely disagree? Or why you agree to plans you'd rather skip, just to avoid ruffling any feathers? The answer isn't about being weak or easily swayed. It's much deeper, rooted in one of the most fundamental human fears. The fear of rejection. Think about it. Humans are social creatures. We're wired for connection. For our earliest ancestors, belonging to a tribe wasn't just nisit, was a matter of life and death. Being part of the group meant protection from predators, shared food, and collective strength. Being cast out, rejected, meant facing the harsh wilderness alone. It was a death sentence. Over thousands of years, our brains evolved to see social rejection as a critical threat, on par with physical danger. This ancient survival mechanism is still very much alive in our modern minds. When you even think about doing something that might lead to disapproval, like voicing an unpopular opinion, or turning down a request, your brain can react as if you're refacing a real physical threat. Your heart might start pounding, your palms get a little sweaty, and that familiar wave of anxiety washes over you. That's your brain's ancient alarm system, screaming, warning. You might get kicked out of the tribe. Neuroscience backs this up. Brain imaging studies have shown that the areas of the brain that light up when we experience social rejection are the very same areas that process physical pain. So, when someone gives you the cold shoulder or you feel excluded, that sting you feel, it's not just in your head. Your brain is literally telling you that you've been hurt. This powerful connection between social rejection and pain explains why we go to such great lengths to avoid it. This fear quietly shapes so many of our daily decisions, often without us even realizing it. It's the invisible force that pushes us toward conformity and obedience. Before your logical mind even has a chance to weigh the pros and cons of a situation, your emotional brain is already asking a more primal question. Will this choice help me stay connected and accepted? When we obey, when we go along with the group, our brain rewards us. It gives us a little hit of relief, a sense of safety and belonging. The tension disappears, harmony is maintained. But when we consider resisting or disagreeing, our brain triggers discomfort. That uneasy feeling is a warning sign, a gentle or a not so gentle pushback toward the safety of the group consensus. This is why a room full of intelligent people can fall silent when a leader proposes a flawed plan. It's not that they all suddenly agree. It's that, one by one, each person's brain is running a rapid risk calculation. The risk of speaking up and facing potential disapproval, isolation, or even just an awkward moment often feels far greater than the risk of staying silent. The desire to maintain social bonds can easily override our individual judgment. Think about peer pressure in school. It's a classic example. Most kids don't engage in risky behaviors because they genuinely think it's a great idea. They do it because the fear of being labeled an outcast, of being laughed at or excluded by their friends, is far more terrifying than the potential consequences of the act itself. Belonging is everything. This isn't just about big, dramatic moments of defiance or conformity. It happens in subtle ways every single day. It's choosing the restaurant everyone else wants, even if you're not in the mood for it. It's laughing at a joke you don't find funny. It's holding back a creative idea because you're worried it might be seen as weird. Each of these small acts of compliance is a negotiation with our ancient fear of rejection. We trade a little piece of our authentic self for the comfort and security of social acceptance. So, where does this leave us? Are we all just doomed to be puppets of our primitive brains, constantly seeking approval? Not at all. The first and most powerful step is simply understanding that this fear exists. Recognizing it for what it is, a deep-seated survival instinct demystifies it. It's not a personal flaw. It's a piece of our shared human heritage. When you feel that pang of anxiety before saying no, you can pause and identify it. You can tell yourself, okay, this is my brain's old alarm system going off. It's trying to protect me. But am I in real danger here? By creating that space between the feeling and your reaction, you give your logical brain a chance to catch up. You can then make a conscious choice based on your values and what you truly want, rather than being driven by an unconscious fear. Building this muscle of self-awareness takes practice. Start small. Say no to a minor request. Voice a gentle disagreement on a low-stakes topic. Notice the feeling of discomfort. And then notice that the world doesn't end. The person you're talking to probably won't banish you from the tribe. More often than not, people respect honesty and clear boundaries. Each time you act in alignment with your true self and see that you are still accepted, you are retraining your brain. You're teaching it that it's safe to be authentic. Ultimately, true belonging isn't about conforming until you're unrecognizable. It's about finding the people and groups where you are accepted for who you are, disagreements and all. Healthy relationships can handle a no. Strong teams thrive on diverse perspectives, not silent agreement. So the next time you hesitate to speak your mind, remember the real reason why. It's not weakness, it's the echo of your ancestors, whispering in your ear, urging you to stay safe within the tribe. Acknowledge that whisper, thank it for trying to protect you, and then make the choice that is right for you. Obedience may start with the fear of rejection, but courage begins when we choose authenticity instead. The second topic is safety in obedience. Have you ever wondered why it is sometimes so much easier to just go along with what you're retold? Why following the rules, even rules you don't fully agree with, can feel strangely comforting? It's not about being weak or lacking courage. It's actually a deep-seated survival instinct hardwired into our brains. Today, we're going to explore the psychology behind obedience and uncover why it feels so safe. Let's start with a fundamental truth about our minds. They absolutely hate uncertainty. Uncertainty is a state of not knowing what will happen next. And for our ancestors, that could mean the difference between life and death. Will that rustling in the bushes be a harmless rabbit or a hungry predator? This state of not knowing triggers our fight or flight response, flooding our bodies with stress hormones like cortisol. It demands immense mental energy, constant vigilance, and a whole lot of risk. So, What's the brain's favorite antidote to uncertainty? Predictability. And that's exactly what obedience offers. When you follow a clear set of instructions, a social norm or a direct command, the path ahead becomes clear. You know what's expected of you. You know the likely outcome, and you can avoid the mental gymnastics of weighing endless possibilities. The brain sees this as a massive win. It's a shortcut that saves energy and reduces stress. Think about it like driving in a new city. Using a GPS feels much safer and less stressful than trying to navigate on your own, even if you enjoy exploring. The GPS provides a predictable path, and following it eliminates the anxiety of getting lost. Obedience works in a very similar way. It's our brain's built-in navigation system for social situations. Another huge piece of this puzzle is conflict avoidance. Disagreeing, challenging authority, or simply going against the grain almost always creates friction. Conflict is draining. It requires you to defend your position, manage the other person's reaction, and deal with potential social consequences. Your brain, ever the efficiency expert, looks at this and thinks, is this battle really worth my energy? Often, the answer is no. By obeying, we smoothly sidestep potential arguments, disagreements, and social fallout. We maintain harmony within our group, whether that's our family, our workplace, or our circle of friends. In early human tribes, this was crucial for survival. A unified group was a strong group. A group riddled with internal conflict was vulnerable. That ancient wiring is still with us today, making us naturally inclined to choose the path of least resistance. Now let's talk about something incredibly powerful: the shifting of responsibility. Making a decision, especially a big one, can be heavy. You have to gather information, weigh the pros and cons, and then live with the consequences, good or bad. This burden of responsibility can be a major source of anxiety. But when you obey, something magical happens. The responsibility for the outcome is transferred to the person or authority giving the order. It's no longer your weight to carry. If things go wrong, it wasn't your decision. This psychological relief is immense. It's why people in high-pressure jobs often appreciate having clear protocols to follow. It removes the personal burden from their shoulders. The decision feels lighter because someone else has already made the call. This isn't about laziness. It's about a very real psychological mechanism that protects us from the stress of accountability. Let's consider the workplace. When a manager gives you a clear task, you know exactly what to do. You don't have to invent a project from scratch, figure out the company's priorities, or worry if you're working on the right thing. You just execute the plan. This structure is calming. It allows you to focus your energy on doing the task well, rather than worrying about whether you should be doing it at all. The brain rewards this simplicity with a sense of calm and accomplishment. Contrast this with the feeling of being told, just do something valuable. The freedom is there, but so is a huge amount of uncertainty and pressure. Which path feels safer? For most people, it's the one with clear directions. This brings us to a crucial point: the trade-off between freedom and safety. Freedom is wonderful, but it comes with a price tag. Responsibility. Total freedom means you are responsible for every single choice you make and every outcome that follows. It requires constant discipline. The mind is constantly running a subconscious calculation: effort versus safety. And very often, it will lean towards safety. This is why habits and routines are so comforting. They are a form of obedience to a preset plan, freeing up our mental resources for other things. We obey our alarm clock, we obey traffic laws, we obey recipes when we cook. We do these things not because we are mindless robots, but because it simplifies our lives and creates a stable, predictable foundation. Over time, our brains build a powerful association. We learn to connect obedience with calm, structure, and protection. We associate resistance, rebellion, and non-conformity with stress, conflict, and risk. This association becomes automatic, a subconscious reflex. It doesn't mean we never question authority or stand up for what we believe in, but it does mean that our default setting is to seek the path that feels safest. This happens on a neurological level. When we successfully follow a rule and everything goes smoothly, our brain's reward system might release a little bit of dopamine, reinforcing the idea that obedience is good. When we go against the grain and face negative consequences, our brain learns that resistance is painful. So, the next time you find yourself wanting to just follow along, don't be too hard on yourself. It's not a character flaw. It is your brain doing what it evolved to do, seeking safety in a complex and uncertain world. It's trying to conserve your energy, protect you from social conflict, and shield you from the heavy burden of responsibility. Understanding this deep-seated psychological drive is the first step to becoming more aware of our own choices. We can then decide when it is wise to take comfort in obedience and when it is necessary to embrace the responsibility that comes with freedom. It's a constant balance, and one that defines much of the human experience. The third topic is how the brain learns to follow. Have you ever wondered why we follow rules, even when no one's looking? Why do we stop at a red light in the middle of the night, on an empty street? The answer lies deep within the architecture of our brains. Our brain is, fundamentally, a learning machine, a survival tool honed over millions of years. Its primary job isn't to make us happy or free, but to keep us safe, and it learns what keeps us safe by remembering past experiences. This process starts the moment we're born. As a child, when you follow a parent's instruction, what happens? You might get a smile, a hug, a word of praise, or maybe even a treat. Your brain registers this. Obedience equals positive outcome. This is good. This keeps me safe and loved. On the flip side, if you defy an instruction, you might face a stern voice, a timeout, or the removal of a privilege. Your brain learns that too. Resistance equals negative outcome. This feels unsafe. This simple feedback loop is a powerful form of learning called conditioning. Every time obedience leads to a reward, be it approval, affection, or a sense of security, neural connections associated with that behavior get stronger. Think of it like building a path in a forest. The first time you walk it, it's difficult, but the more you use it, the clearer and more defined it becomes, until it's a well-trodden trail that you can follow without even thinking. These lessons accumulate over years, from parents to teachers, from social norms to workplace rules. We are constantly being conditioned. The brain meticulously builds a vast network of associations, all reinforcing the same core idea. Compliance is safety. Disobedience is a risk. Over time, these reinforced neural pathways make obedience feel less like a choice and more like an instinct. It becomes our default setting. This is the critical shift. The brain's question changes. It stops asking, is following this rule the right or wrong thing to do? And instead asks, does following this rule make me feel safe? Safety becomes the ultimate metric. This explains why we often follow rules without question. The brain has already done the calculation and concluded that compliance is the path of least resistance and greatest security. It's an efficient, energy-saving shortcut. The result is that authority becomes internalized. The external voice of a parent or a teacher becomes an internal script that runs on autopilot. We don't need a police officer on every corner because the officer is already in our head. A product of years of conditioning. This internal authority figure is what guides our behavior, whispering to us that it's better to just go along with things, to not rock the boat. This is precisely how obedience is passed down through generations. It's not just a conscious decision, it's a deeply ingrained, neurologically backed habit. Each generation teaches the next, rewarding compliance and discouraging dissent, ensuring the survival of these behavioral patterns. The brain doesn't fight this process because, from its perspective, it's working perfectly. It's successfully protecting the individual from social friction, punishment, and uncertainty. Think about it. Obedience runs on autopilot. It's easy, familiar, and feels safe. Freedom, on the other hand, requires conscious effort to question a rule, to choose a different path, to resist the norm that takes mental energy. It involves stepping off the well-trodden path and into the unknown, which the brain perceives as a potential threat. Our brain, being the efficient machine it is, naturally prefers the autopilot mode of obedience. It conserves energy for what it deems more critical survival tasks. So, while we may praise the idea of free thinking and rebellion, the very wiring of our brains makes us predisposed to follow. It's a survival mechanism that has served us well, allowing us to form stable societies and cooperate on a massive scale. But it's also a mechanism that can be exploited. Understanding this helps us see why people might follow orders they disagree with, or conform to social pressures that feel wrong. The key is awareness. By understanding how our brains are wired for obedience, we can start to notice when we're running on autopilot. We can learn to consciously pause and ask the questions our brain has been trained to skip. Is this rule fair? Does this authority deserve my compliance? Is this path truly the right one for me? Breaking free from the autopilot of obedience isn't about rebelling against every rule. It's about reclaiming the power of choice. It's about making a conscious decision to engage your prefrontal cortex, the thinking, reasoning part of your brain instead of letting the primitive, fear-based parts run the show. It's about distinguishing between obedience that serves a constructive purpose, like traffic laws that prevent chaos, and obedience that stifles growth or perpetuates injustice. This requires courage. It means being willing to feel the discomfort of uncertainty, the fear of social disapproval. But it's in that space of conscious deliberation that true freedom is found. It's the difference between being a passenger in your own life and taking the driver's seat. The brain's preference for autopilot is strong, but it's not absolute. We have the capacity to override it, to choose our own course, and to create new paths not just for ourselves, but for the generations that will follow. So the next time you find yourself automatically following a rule, take a second. Ask why. Is it for safety? Is it out of habit? Or is it a conscious choice? Understanding the incredible learning machine in your head is the first step toward mastering it. The fourth topic is freedom versus belonging. Ever felt torn between speaking your mind and just fitting in? It's a universal struggle, this constant tug of war between two of our deepest human needs, freedom and belonging. Freedom sounds so empowering, right? It's the stuff of legends, the cry of revolutions. It represents choice, independence, and the open road. But belonging feels like coming home. It's the warmth of connection, the security of a tribe, the comfort of knowing you're not alone. We spend our entire lives trying to find the perfect balance between these two powerful forces. One pulls us toward the horizon, promising endless possibilities. The other anchors us to a community, offering safety and a sense of identity. So, which one wins? And why does it often feel like we have to sacrifice one to get the other? Today, we're diving deep into the psychology behind this fundamental human conflict. Why does our brain seem to prioritize fitting in, even when our heart yearns to break free? The answer is buried deep within our evolutionary past, a survival instinct that shapes our decisions every single day. Let's start with the basics. From a psychological standpoint, our brains are hardwired for connection. For our ancient ancestors, being part of a group wasn't just a social preference. It was a matter of life and death. Isolation meant danger. It meant you were vulnerable to predators, starvation, and the elements. The group offered protection, shared resources, and a much higher chance of survival. This primal fear of being cast out is still with us. Even in our modern world, social rejection triggers the same areas of the brain that process physical pain. Think about that for a second. Being left out literally hurts. So, when faced with a choice between the glorious, uncertain path of freedom and the safe, warm embrace of belonging, our brain often defaults to safety. It sees belonging as a non-negotiable, a fundamental requirement for our well-being. Freedom, on the other hand, is a luxury that comes with a significant risk attached. It's the path less traveled, and for good reason. It's a path you might have to walk alone. Now, let's talk about what happens when we choose freedom. Choosing freedom often means choosing to be different. It might mean voicing an unpopular opinion, challenging the status quo, or pursuing a dream that nobody else understands. While these actions can lead to incredible personal growth and innovation, they also carry the immediate risk of disagreement, disapproval, and even outright rejection from the group. For the brain, this is a red alert. Standing alone feels fundamentally unsafe. It goes against that ancient programming that screams, "Stick with the tribe." This is precisely why so many of us experience social anxiety, or feel a pit in our stomach before speaking up in a meeting or a large group. It's not just nerves, it's our survival instinct kicking into high gear, warning us of the potential social danger. The desire to express our unique, free self is powerful, but the deep-seated need The fifth topic is why obedience feels normal. Have you ever wondered why following the rules just feels normal? Why stepping out of line can feel so scary, even when you know it's the right thing to do? The answer is buried deep in our history, our brains, and the very fabric of our society. It's a story that starts thousands of years ago. For countless generations, survival depended on obedience. Our ancestors lived in a world full of dangers. Following a strong leader, adhering to the tribe's rules, and fitting into established systems wasn't just a good idea, it was the only way to stay alive. Those who obeyed survived. Those who didn't often perished. This wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. These patterns of following leaders, systems, and structures were practiced over and over again, for so long that they became ingrained in our collective experience. What starts as a survival strategy eventually becomes something more. These repeated patterns of obedience turned into traditions. Think about the rituals and customs passed down in your own family or community. Many of them are about following a certain way of doing things, a way that has been established for a long time. These traditions then blossomed into culture. Culture is the water we swim, and it's the shared beliefs, values, and behaviors of a group. And a huge part of almost every culture on earth is a built-in respect for authority and a tendency to follow established norms. So, when you're born into a world where obedience is everywhere, from your parents, to your teachers, to the laws of your country, it doesn't feel like something being forced upon you. It feels natural. It feels like the way things are supposed to be. Your identity itself is shaped by this cultural programming. We learn who we are by learning the rules of the game. We are taught to be good students, good employees, good citizens, and all of these roles are defined by a degree of obedience. Our brains are incredible adaptation machines. They are wired to seek out what is familiar, because, from an evolutionary perspective, what's familiar is what's safe. It's the known path, the one that didn't lead to a predator last time. When obedience is the most familiar thing in your environment, your brain registers it as safety. It becomes your default setting. Following the crowd, sticking to the routine, doing what you're told, all of these actions send a signal to your brain that says, everything is okay. We are safe. Safe. This is why questioning authority can feel so deeply uncomfortable, sometimes even physically threatening. When you think about challenging your boss, questioning a long-held tradition, or going against the popular opinion, what do you feel? For many people, it's a jolt of anxiety. Your heart might beat a little faster. Your palms might get sweaty. That's your brain's ancient alarm system kicking in, warning you that you're straying from the safe, familiar path. It's screaming, danger. You're breaking from the herd. This discomfort isn't a sign of weakness. It's a testament to how deeply programmed we are for conformity. Obedience is so clever because it weaves itself into the fabric of our daily lives until it becomes completely invisible. Think about your morning routine. You wake up at a certain time, you follow a sequence of actions. You go to work or school and follow a schedule set by someone else. You stop at red lights. You wait in line at the store. You use a fork and knife in a particular way. We follow thousands of rules and norms every single day, most of the time without even thinking about it. We're on autopilot. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. It frees up our mental energy for other tasks, but it also means we are practicing obedience constantly, reinforcing the neural pathways that make it feel easy and right. So what happens when we're presented with the opposite of obedience, true freedom? The freedom to choose your own path, to create your own rules, to live completely on your own terms. Logically, it sounds amazing, but emotionally, it can feel terrifying. Freedom is unfamiliar, and as we've learned, what's unfamiliar feels risky to our survival-oriented brains. The open field of endless possibilities can feel more like a dangerous, empty void than a land of opportunity. There are no signposts, no guarantees, no one to tell you if you're doing it right. This is why many people, when given complete freedom, feel a sense of paralysis or anxiety. They may even subconsciously seek out new structures and rules to follow, just to regain that feeling of safety and certainty. This explains why patterns of obedience can persist even when they are no longer helpful or necessary. Think about a job you hate but are afraid to leave, or a social convention that makes no sense, but everyone follows anyway. Your rational mind might know it's time for a change, but your brain clings to what it knows. It clings to the survival lesson it learned eons ago. Obedience worked. It kept us alive. And our brains are designed never, ever to forget a lesson about survival. So when you feel that pull to conform, that fear of speaking up, that comfort in just going with the flow, know that it's not just you. You're feeling the weight of thousands of years of human history and the powerful wiring of your own brain. Obedience feels safer than freedom because, for most of our existence, it was. But here is the most important part. Understanding this doesn't mean we are doomed to be obedient forever. In fact, understanding it is the first step toward true liberation. Recognizing that the fear of freedom is just an old, outdated survival program running in the background gives you the power to override it. It allows you to feel the fear, acknowledge its ancient roots, and then choose to act anyway. Breaking away will almost always feel difficult. It will feel uncomfortable. It will feel risky. But every time you make a conscious choice, instead of blindly following, you are rewriting your own programming. You are teaching your brain a new lesson, that freedom, while unfamiliar, is not fatal. In fact, in our modern world, the ability to think for yourself, to question, and to forge your own path is the new key to survival and, more importantly, to a life that is truly your own. So the next time you face a choice between the easy, obedient path and the difficult, free one, remember why it feels the way it does. And then, ask yourself which path leads to the person you truly want to be. The journey is not about eliminating fear, but about learning to walk alongside it. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more thoughts on how we can understand ourselves better and live more consciously. See you in the next one.